Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to talk about ego death and the process of going through that and how it has changed things for me and really changed my view on everything related to manifestation and spirituality. But in this video, I'm going to try and just keep it to actually talking about ego death itself, what it feels like, going through it, and then probably in another video I will talk about a lot of the things that I've learned, because there's a lot. So basically what happened was a few days ago I started just crying more. It started earlier on than that. You guys probably heard me talk about it in one of my other videos where I said I see everything. I think that was the title. I always reference that video. But it kind of started there where I was feeling a little all over the place. Like my emotions were just super heightened. I would be like up in an instant and then all of a sudden I would be so down. And this is a really important point, the ups and downs. It was all over the place. I was just going through it and it was not really getting better. It was actually getting worse. Sometimes I would think it was getting better, but then it would just hit me again, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I'm just constantly emotional. I was crying about so many things, thinking about random things that I hadn't thought about in so long, just things from the past, things that family have said to me, any negative belief that you can think of, I was thinking of. I was speaking out and saying. And it just got to the point where I just started saying all these things that I hated or was mad about or upset about. I would just speak them out. And the reason I was doing this is because when your emotions are like this, like, it's basically because you have like two sides to you that are both pulling. Like you have your ego and your higher self. As I've shown in my other video, the whole tug of war thing, that was like what was going on in my mind. It was like I was being pulled both ways, kind of like towards your past negative beliefs and then also towards your future. And it was just constant back and forth. I was like arguing with myself. One day I would be like, oh, I'm so positive, I'm going to have a great day today. I would be saying all these affirmations to myself. And then the next day I would be like, I hate myself, everything sucks. Like, why am I like this? Why do I feel like this? And I would just be speaking out all these super negative things. So it just got to the point where I just kind of had to keep letting out the negative things, and sometimes I would get back to the whole arguing with myself. I would one minute feel, super relieved after I said all these negative things and got them all out in the open. I would just feel really relieved after saying them, but then right after that, it would be like, it was like riding a wave, which is really what it is. I was like going down so low by releasing all these negative beliefs, and I would feel good for like a minute, because what happens is you start to kind of rise up again naturally. But then if you are super emotional, what happens is the wave, if it's very big, like a big down, if you go down a lot, then you have to go up a lot. So think of it like whatever you release is kind of like I don't know how to say it, it comes back up again, kind of like a ball. Like if you're to bounce a ball, how hard you bounce it is how much it's going to come back up again. So if your emotions are very high, they're going to be like very low, and then very high, and then very low. High, not so much, like, yeah, either way. Like if you are very emotional one way or the other, like it really does this whole swing. That's why people get in, like you might know people that are manic or they have bipolar disorder. You could say at this point, I probably could have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder if someone were to see me in this state. But I know now, I have so much knowledge now I didn't have before, which I will go over in other videos, but I know now that there is really no health issues. Every issue that we think is a health issue is only related to our limiting beliefs that we are holding within us. I 100% can say this now. I can see everything so much more clearly. It got to the point through this process where I had no idea if I was going to like live or die. I'm not even kidding, it got this bad. I got so low at one point, like I'm just like, quite literally, I was like lying on this floor, like crying my eyes out. just being like, is this ever going to end? It was so horrible. And every time I would try to do something or try something new or record a video, respond to an email, I just all of a sudden was hit with another wave of emotions, and it was like, no, there's no way. I'm telling you, my higher self was like in control at that point. It was like, we are going through this or not. Like, there is no other option. This is what we're doing. And that was the first time in my life I felt very much like guided by my higher self, because I was like, there's no other way. I had no other choice but to deal with all these beliefs. It was like I waited so long to deal with some of them that it was like, no, they just have to come out now. And I'm telling you, if you have limiting beliefs that you need to deal with them a little bit at a time, like release them a little bit at a time. I do want to make a video talking about how to really release negative beliefs. Like, I understand it so much more now. But just try to always do it a little at a time, because the way that I get it explained to me, once again, I receive channel messages from my higher self, which I now know is like various versions of myself in different states, which once again, I'll make videos on this. But the way that it was explained to me is that if you release all your negative beliefs at once, it's like a diver that goes down and then decides to come up really quickly. You know how they have to make their stops, because or else I think it's like they get filled with nitrogen. It's kind of like you expanding too quickly. If you move through negative beliefs really fast, you expand very quickly, and that's what happened to me. It's like rapid expansion. And so it was like the worst I've ever experienced in my life. Like, I literally, my heart was racing. It was going, at one point, almost hit 200 beats per minute while I was just sitting here. And then it would go from there to all of a sudden like 63 beats per minute, and then back up again every time I would go through these states. But I could see that it was correlating with my emotions, and then my body would get extremely hot. I would be sweating so much that like you could feel the heat coming off me. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden I would be, eventually, like when I got through all of this, I got really cold. Like, I just got super cold when I had just released every possible negative belief. I was in the lowest state you could possibly be in. You could call it hitting rock bottom. I felt so cold all of a sudden. And I just knew at that point that I had like emptied out everything, because what happens when you release a negative belief, that energy is like burnt up. So you might start to feel warm, because that's what's happening. And I'm going to make a video on the science behind this, even though this is just a logical way of explaining it. But energy is never created or destroyed. So when you release a negative belief, it is burnt up as heat energy. Like, you feel it burning up in you. And then when you're empty, when you have nothing left, you start to feel like almost cold inside. I can't even explain it. It was like my arms were just like numb, so cold. The only part that was warm was like right here afterwards, just my heart. It was like everything was going towards my heart, is what I felt like. And it was crazy. It was like I knew when another wave was coming on. It was a roller coaster, and I know many of you would be like, you know, maybe you had a fever, maybe you should have gone to the hospital if your heart was like that. But the thing was, I just knew that I couldn't explain this to anyone. I knew that no one would understand, because I could see how my words and like my feelings were relating to what I was experiencing. It was all based on me, and the stuff, the downloads I was getting, I was like, there's no way this is not spiritual. Like, there was just no other explanation for it. And I knew if I went to the hospital and tried to like control it, it would literally just continue. So I had to just go through it. And I'm so glad I did, because I finally feel like I'm on the other side. And that's also a concept here too, because when you go through this, it's like you're starting from the bottom. Like, once you bottom out is like how I could say it, when I was like, had no negative beliefs left in me to even speak. It's like you hit rock bottom, and then from there, because you hit rock bottom, it's like you're bounced up like all the way, and then your frequency can finally be like the highest it can be. And the way that I can explain it to you is that we naturally are like, you can think of it like water. The way that I was seeing this was so clear. It's like we live our lives underwater almost. Like, we're trying to swim through the ocean like underwater. And then we're trying to deal with all these waves, and like the lower we go, the lower we get pushed underwater. But then as we start to deal with things, we start to come closer and closer to the surface of the water. Like we get closer and closer to that edge. And finally, it's like you break free of the surface, and then you're in the air. You're like in the open, and you can like step out of the ocean for a bit. And that's how I talked about my other video, like complete release. Like when I said in the tug of war, when they just released the rope, that's what it's like. It was like you got to get out of the ocean for a bit and just lay there, and it's just silent and calm. Like I've never felt more calm and peace in my life than when that happened. But when you're in it, it's horrible. And everyone's at a different level underwater. And what you want to do is get yourself to the surface. You can think of it like also if you are on Earth, it's like grounding. People say grounding themselves. This is actually so, so important. I'm not just saying it like for the sake of like ground yourself. No, like I cannot tell you how important this is. Grounding yourself is like keeping yourself in the present moment while you're dealing with this. Because if you don't, what's happening is like I said with the tug of war, you can think of it like polarity. You're getting pulled to both sides of something. So every time that you are all of a sudden thinking about something in the future and then the past or whatever, or like either or, it's like you're being bounced around. Like all of my thoughts started to feel so big. Like every time I would have a thought, I felt like I was being pulled one direction. You know, my heart would slow down or my heart would race. Like it was just this back and forth bouncing a ball. And the only way I could get it to like calm down was to be in the middle. And that was the whole point of this process, is to be in the middle. Once you get in the middle, it's like the eye of the storm, and you no longer have to deal with everything. And the way that I got in the middle was to stop trying to manifest something. I'm telling you, every time I tried to manifest something or say an affirmation, it was like, no, stop. Like immediately, you were just like, couldn't do that. I was taught that that's not what you want to be doing. You want to let go of everything, because your desires are meant for you, and there is nothing blocking them except your limiting beliefs. You do not need to manifest anything. I'm telling you, what you need to do is be in the present moment, because if you are in the present moment, your higher self can help you because it knows where you are. It's like being on a map, and when you are in the present moment, it's like it can find you and it can help you with what you need in that moment. So one of your desires, if it fits that moment, it can bring it to you in that moment. It's like a puzzle. So every time that you are going through things in your life and you have desires, your desires are already going to be yours. Like that was already destined for you. So you manifesting them, you saying that they're going to be yours, is unnecessary. It's a waste of time, really. You can say something that you want, but it's not really going to do much. It's hard to explain. It might move it up a level, like in importance for you in that moment. But if it's not going to fit in that moment with you, like if you're not feeling the right way in that moment to receive that thing, and once again, I'm going to make more videos on this, but it's not a particular feeling. It's just how you're feeling in that moment. If it's not a match, then like you won't receive your desire. And so the importance of this is that if you start being honest about what you're experiencing in the moment, like saying what you're actually experiencing, like I'm sitting in this chair right now, I'm staring at my computer right now, your higher self can then bring you a desire that's actually helpful for you. Like maybe you need something in this moment. Maybe you need something in this moment like, I don't know, confidence, or you need the right words you want to say, something like that. If you can tell it where you are, then you receive more of what you actually need. So this is why it's important, and you receive one of the desires that is a desire of yours that you do need. Letting go of your desires, like honestly, is just the most freeing thing you can do, and letting go of limiting beliefs. And when you let go of limiting beliefs, it's so interesting. They are like taken up away from you. As soon as you release it, it doesn't come back to you unless you continue to bring up that limiting belief again and again. So if you can release it and then stay quiet in your mind right after, it's like the limiting belief phases out, because this is very hard to explain. This whole video is just kind of a ramble talk of what's went on with me. Hopefully I'll make more videos on particular topics after this. But when you release a limiting belief and then you're silent, it's like your body all the time is going through updates. You can think of it like a software update or like a notification to your higher self. Every time you have a thought of something or you try to manifest something, any thought that you have, and then you like take a pause or you go do something else where you're distracted, basically your mind goes into like sleep mode, kind of like you're distracted with something else, or you're meditating, or you're just quiet in your head. At that point, it's like your higher self takes anything that you just said and it takes that information. I call it like bringing it up into the cloud. It's like a storage thing. I don't know how to explain it. And they like mixes everything up and is like, okay, this is what the information they gave us, blah, 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 this is where they're at. And then it spits it back out to you as a new route to follow in your life. So basically, your desires are meant for you, but they can be rearranged by what you're currently thinking. So think of it like a puzzle where all the pieces fit, but then like your higher self will rearrange the puzzle based on where you're currently at. It's like you're in a flow. It's like a flow chart. You're moving through a flow chart and you choose this option. They're like, okay, well now we got to push them back this way. Okay, they're going this way. We got to push them back this way. Your higher self is always trying to make sure you're on the right path for your desires. And you're moving in a flow. Like that is what's happening, is you're moving in a flow state every time you take an action. And it doesn't matter what action. That's the thing too. The actions don't really matter. The decisions don't really matter. It's only that you keep moving forward and you keep taking an action. So like if you're just like doing the same thing every day, not changing anything, and you're not seeing any changes, sorry, my throat's still dry, you're not going to get super far. You think of it like you're sending your higher self updates all the time by doing things, by going out and doing stuff, by taking little actions. And I'm talking like the littlest actions. It does not have to be huge actions, but as long as you're moving forward, then you're going to be moving towards your goals. And it's hard to explain, but also the faster that you move, the faster that you can experience something. Like the faster you move through limiting beliefs, the faster you will experience what you do want, which is what happened to me. I woke up today to like so many sales all of a sudden, like overnight. It's like everything that I had wanted, now that I released all of it, I'm not manifesting it, it just all started coming to me like effortlessly. And this is just what happens because all you needed to do was let go of the limiting beliefs. That was the only thing blocking you from your desire. All of your desires are meant for you, no matter what. And again, you can shift like the flow of things kind of, but you're not going to change the fact that your desires are meant for you and you will experience them. If, once again, it's a matter of how fast you're moving through time, the universe, like it sees time being slow when you're just doing the same thing and you're not moving. Like when you're just doing the same thing day in and day out, not changing anything, it sees that as kind of like time, just wasting time kind of. It, not in a bad way. Again, don't ever judge yourself. That is the number one thing. That is where all these limiting beliefs have come from, is judgment. So to be one with your higher self is literally to release all judgment on yourself. Like I got to the point where there was nothing left I could say negative about myself. Like I had said every possible thing. And also when you're saying these negative things, I recommend to be in a state where your mind is calm when you're saying these things. Like a state where your mind is quiet. You can meditate before, or just be in the present moment as you're saying these things, because that is the time when they're going to be taken up. Like when you can say all the negative things and then like pause and breathe and just like not say anything. That is the way that you cause them to update, basically. And this is so hard to explain, but you're being reborn. Like the updates I'm talking about, it's like you're being reborn every time you think thoughts. Because what happens is they send a version of you that can help you along every time that you change your thoughts. Like they send a new version down to basically help you, or someone in that moment. It's hard to explain. It's not someone, but like the thoughts in that moment that you need. That's why it's, once again, so important to be honest about where you are. Don't say like I'm a millionaire right now, because you might not be a millionaire in this moment. So don't lie to yourself. Tell yourself, I'm not a millionaire in this moment. Because you want to know what's crazy about all of this is that, have we ever thought about the fact that we always want things and we find that the things we want most, we never receive, right? It's because our mind is working in reverse. If you look at how we see things out here, it talks about how the eyes, like the image is flipped, right? It flips it upright for us. So every time we're saying positive things all the time to ourselves, forcing ourselves to say them, they're just being flipped. Because your higher self, like, it knows when you're lying to it. Because it's you. You know when you're lying to yourself. So don't lie to yourself. Be honest. Say how you're actually feeling. Say, I'm not a millionaire right now. I'm not a millionaire. And I don't have a lot of money, or something like that. Say that to yourself. Don't lie. And then in doing that, what happens is that your higher self wants to help you, because that is its whole thing, is that it wants to help you. And then guess what happens? It brings in a way for that to happen for you. Because you were honest, not because you lied about it. So in every moment, tell it, like, you don't have to go and like speak everything you're doing. This is just sometimes a good way, if you're not in the present moment a lot, to bring yourself back. Say like what you're doing exactly in that moment. Tell your higher self. And remember, after you've said it, kind of like take a breath and have a moment of like no thought just for a second. And then you can go back to whatever you're doing. But if you can do that, you'll start to bring yourself more into the present moment in alignment with your higher self. Because that is what alignment is being at the same pace as your higher self. So your higher self, if you keep saying that you are all these things, it's going to think like you're way off in the future, or you're in another state basically, and it thinks that you need certain things. But then when it finds out that you weren't honest about it, that you don't actually need those things, it can't send them to you. So you just remain stuck in the present moment without the things you actually need in that moment. So stop lying to your higher self, because it knows when you're lying, and that's the thing. It's going to make you speak out all those lies one time or another. Like, if you don't do it now, I promise you it will be terrible. If you have to go through it all at once like I did, I think because I was moving so fast, expanding so quickly, that I was just going through these negative beliefs at a rate I can't even explain. It was just constant ups and downs. My body, also, I broke some blood vessels on my leg because of the like pressure. My head was pounding. Like, my arms would be getting pains down here, and then sometimes they'd be just like ice. I don't know, there were so many things. I had leg pain, like I had back pain, neck pain, like every possible pain you can think of, I had it. But I would be honest about it. I would say, like, I'm hurting here, or this sucks here, like, and again, you don't have to speak everything out, because sometimes words can cause you to want to argue with yourself. So instead of speaking everything out, you can also just feel it, like, just generally sit there and, like, just go through it. If you are feeling a negative emotion, do not push it away. Do not say a positive affirmation to try and get rid of it. Feel the thing that you're feeling. Say the thing you're feeling. Say it out loud. Whatever you're feeling. Like, either feel it or say it. And in saying it, you're feeling it. So start doing this. And like I said, don't try to do it all at once if it's a lot for you, because I promise you, the bigger the wave you create in negative emotion, the more it's kind of like it comes back at you, kind of like if you just start saying things out, like the emotion kind of comes back to you, and you got to feel it and go through it. So if you're just speaking words, like you're just saying negative things about yourself, like to just get them out, don't be surprised if you all of a sudden a little bit later feel this wave of emotion come over you that's really negative. That's you needing to now just sit there and feel the emotion and let it go. And once again, you let it go by just feeling it and then just breathing after. And that's it. And yeah, that's pretty much the process of going through this whole ego death. There's probably going to be a lot more that I want to say about it, but it's honestly like, it feels never ending when you're in it. It feels like you honestly want to die at one point. Like, I had to even accept the idea of death too, which I was always scared to even talk about. I just had to accept it. I had to accept that it was, yeah. And when you're going through it too, what happens is it's like death to every possible desire you ever had, every possible negative belief you ever had. Like, it's everything that you let go of. all of it. You don't have like anything left, at least the way that I went through it, which is not the way everyone goes through it. I think I went through a very extreme version of this process, so yours might be a little bit easier. I've also had a lot of negative beliefs for years that I've had to deal with. My family is the complete opposite of me. Very much, my entire family has been always very judgmental and very negative, and that's the thing. Don't feel bad about speaking things anymore. Literally, don't judge yourself for anything. Like, I don't judge myself now for saying these things that I want to say. I just say them because it was the truth. Like, I went through, obviously I know that it was my beliefs being spoken out by them to me, but at the same time, I did go through that experience still. I can't deny that that was my experience, and it was really awful, and it really sucked growing up, feeling that way. But I forgive them now, and I understand that it was just myself, So, yeah, it's a process, and it's just important to trust that it's going to be okay. Just keep moving forward was the thing that I got out of it. Just keep moving forward. Even when you feel like you're hitting wall after wall and everything sucks, like just keep moving forward, as in just keep releasing things as they come up. Keep trying to take tiny actions if you feel like it. If you feel like what I feel like, I just wanted to lay on the couch all day and do nothing. I literally couldn't even get off the couch. I was just so dead tired. If I tried to do anything, it was like my higher self was like, nope, bring you right back here and we're going to keep going through this. It was like, there's no way I was getting out of it. It was like judgment day for me. I just had to just put it all out there. And this is really the process of so-called judgment day, is all the judgment that we build up on ourselves. And it's like we are born in a way where it's hard to explain. We have a certain amount of energy in a way that we are born with, and then the more that we use it up by not speaking out limiting beliefs, what happens, it's kind of like our higher self has to deal with it instead of us dealing with any of it, and eventually at some point it's like it runs out. I don't know if I can explain it this way, but in a way, let me explain this in a different way. So you have sort of like a limited storage capacity for things. Okay, you can think of it like an iPhone or something, right? Limited storage capacity. But then, notification. But as you go along in life, like you use up your storage, right? Like you take pictures. You can think of your life as a reel of pictures. That's really what it is. And so over time, you eventually start to use up all the space. And if you don't let things go, you don't delete some things, then you're eventually going to have no storage space left. And when that happens, you die. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So, in a way to not use up all of your storage space, first off, you'd want to let go of things, right? You want to create new space. So this is why letting go of things you don't need, don't want, is really important. And that also includes just like anything that you don't need anymore. Like just let it go of it, speak it out, whatever that is. But once again, I said it's very important to do this when you are in a state where you are kind of like centered, because that is like your connection with your higher self is in the middle. So if you can do that, then that's the best time. Although if you do say negative beliefs, if you speak them out and you're not totally centered, the next time you do get centered, which could even be for some people just sleeping, you will also kind of like go through, think of it like a software update at night or something. It's like every time that you're sleeping, you get a software update. All right, so those limiting beliefs get taken up. It's like the energy gets used up, it gets taken from you. Or you create new space is the way I should say it. Anyways, but when you connect to your higher self, you can think of it like connecting to cloud, like with the iPhone, which is really crazy because it's like you can think of that going up into the sky or something. At that point, it's like you have now an unlimited storage capacity. And this is also the way you can think of your brain in terms of expansion, because if you try to expand in the current state that you're in, and you're holding on to all these limiting beliefs, your body's going to build up pressure, which is what happened to me. It was extreme pressure, and there was just no way to withstand it anymore. I had to release some things so I could be able to live. Like, I literally thought I was going to die. So I had to release things. And when I did that, it was like, I just felt so much lighter after. So much lighter. And I gave up the things to my higher self. And when you do that, the best part about it is that you don't lose anything. None of those things are actually gone. It's just that you gave them to the cloud. So you don't have to carry them with you anymore. It's not a burden for you to carry anymore. It does everything for you. And that's the beauty of it. And every time you reconnect with it, it's the same thing. Like, you can just reconnect with it. This is why daily meditation is important, or just if you get to a state like where I'm at, it's you kind of just meditate as you're doing things because you don't have all these thoughts floating around your head. Which, by the way, thoughts are not bad. It's not bad to have thoughts. You don't have to have an empty mind all the time. The only time you want an empty mind is when you are clearing things, when you want to give your body time to clear. Think of it like fasting. So if you give your body time to fast after you've said a lot of negative things, then that way it can clear it for you, because you're going through updates after update after update. And so if you can give it time between releasing negative beliefs, it's like it phases it out. Think of your negative belief as like being like in this update, and then it's a little bit less in this one, and it's a little bit less in this one, and then to the point where eventually it's not there anymore. But that's only when you give it the space. That's why people say don't keep repeating negative beliefs, because they'll keep coming up again. Which, once again, it's okay if it does come up again, just in that moment, try to immediately get rid of it, right? Don't let it fester, basically. Because the more you let it fester, the more software updates it keeps going through, and it stays with you and never leaves until you let go of it. So yeah, I hope that this is making sense, but the way that I'm also speaking this video, by the way, is totally just however it comes out. This is the way that things are supposed to happen. We were never meant to live linear lives. Like, this whole necklace is actually a great explanation of this, and the fact that also I was born with a spine that looked like this, and then my family got me back surgery, right? I posted a video on that where they corrected it, which I think is kind of funny now, because we always try to correct all these different problems when it actually was almost like the reason we were born with something was because it has to do with something else. Everything happens for a reason. I can see that now. Every little thing that you think happens for no reason, or is something getting in your way, or is trouble to you, it's all happening for you. Like, everything is your higher self helping you. Even the negative situations, because it's there so that you can release limiting beliefs. So use it. Like, everything. I'm talking getting interrupted or having something bother you. Everything. It is all just your higher self is rearranging every time that you think thoughts and stuff. It's just rearranging how your desires are going to play out for you. So also, the more you can stay in the center and the more that you let go of how something's going to happen, like I said, I let go of all of my desires. I literally just stopped trying to manifest anything. Now it's like the universe has every possible pathway open so it can bring you your desire so much faster, rather than if you have a specific desire that you keep saying. Because I learned that all of my desires were just, they all went back to me. All it was me wanting to be with my higher self. And you won't understand this until you're at like a certain level of frequency, but that all your desires, all the things you think you want are just you. And it's not just in the sense that like you are everything. No, it's like they all have a meaning to who you are. It's hard to explain, but all the things you think you want, try to open it up, try to make it broader. If you have to still say affirmations, which I really don't think are necessary, but if you have to say them, say things like I am abundant or I am happy. Like, very broad categories is what I would recommend for that. But yes, all I can say is what I was going towards earlier is that life does not have to be orderly. We're not meant to live a straight path. It was meant to be up and down. It was meant to be all over the place. That's why even my thoughts in this video are like this. That's why ADHD is not actually a problem. Also, we were not meant to live lives where everything goes in a specific straight line in the universe. Even in this process of this, I keep hearing it say things like it does not want more straight lines. It says this is the problem in our lives, is that we think we have to live a straight line when that is not the case. We are meant to live lives that don't make sense. Literally, we are meant to go through experiences that don't really make sense. So when you do things, like I said, take actions to move you towards your desire. It could be any action. Do things that make you happy. Do things that make you feel like a kid again. That's really what it is. And I was going to say in this video, I made another video on my old channel. Now watching my videos back on my old tarot channel, I was describing myself about what I was going to go through, which is so interesting. But there was one particular video where I say something about how I was channeling about the future of the earth, and I had the exact same visions from that video today. Like, I dreamt them today, and they happened months ago that I predicted all that stuff, and I didn't even know what I was talking about back then. I wasn't even sure I was going to get into talking about this stuff, and I just find it wild. But there was just so many things I said in that video, especially a lot talking about, I might go into this in another video, but anyways, I said something about the playground, how Earth is meant to be a playground in that video, and then look where I am now with this channel and the name of the channel. And that's really what I discovered, is that it's meant to be fun. We're supposed to do things that we want to do, and our higher self figures out the path to our desire by us just doing things. All we have to do is do things, and then it figures the rest out. So if you let go of all the control and you just do things, do what you want to do in that moment, whatever it is that you want to do, it will take you to where you want to go. That's it. Any pathway, like, it will always try so hard to figure out a pathway for you. But if you are stuck trying to fit into a box, being like, this is the way it's got to go, or like, this is exactly what I want, and you're not letting go of that, then it's not going to have all these possibilities open to you, because you keep putting one desire at the top or something, keep saying, I want this thing, I want this thing, when your higher self knows you need something else right now, then you're never going to move forward. So my best advice is to let go of control and be okay with your life not making sense. And also, literally, like, if you were like me laying on the couch for days being like, I'm not working, what am I going to do for money, how am I going to do this, do that, I have this to pay, I have this to do today, and I was doing nothing. Like, I felt so down on myself. But don't let that happen. Like, don't, if you get in that phase, if something's happening like that to you, trust it, let it go. Like, just let it, as they say, like, leave it to God, higher power, let them figure it out for you. Like, the reason it's happening is for a reason. It's usually for you to see something or understand something or process things. If you're finding you're really lazy or sleeping all the time, it's probably because you need to process something. There's something that you're letting go of or need to let go of, and your higher self is making you sleepy or sleep a lot so that you can process all this information. Because if you're not releasing it yourself, then it needs to do it for you. So that is why you feel burnt out. Anyways, there's a lot more I want to go through in these videos, but yeah, the other thing I would say is just, we bury people underground when they die, but really we live our whole lives underground. This is how it starts. We start underground. It's like we build up so-called student debt by living our life and building up limiting beliefs. And then over the rest of our life, we learn to release those limiting beliefs if we actually understand the process. It's almost like we're living in reverse, is what's happening. We're meant to rediscover who we really are through this life. That is really what we're here for, is to rediscover ourselves, and in the process, play a little bit and be kids again. We're really supposed to learn to be like a kid again. And so what you want to do is live above the ground. You want to put your rest of your desires, everything else you want to put under you. Like, you are everything, really, but you're also nothing. You have to remember that. You're everything and nothing. So you are a balance of all things. And so everything else is kind of like underneath you. so to speak, because you are God, and we know that God is above everything, is how people would say it. Like, they always put God first, and that is putting you first. So above everything else, you have to love yourself first. By loving yourself, you love everything else in this world. By loving yourself, you love everyone else. So that is why it's so important to work on yourself, because when you work on yourself, you don't just raise the level of consciousness of yourself, you raise it for the entire universe, for everyone. So it's a very important process if you can do that for yourself. And yeah, again, referring to underground and above ground, I just find that so fascinating that we bury ourselves underground when we die in a tiny little box. Meanwhile, other people get cremated, burnt up into ashes, and it goes up, you know? I think of it like that, like a phoenix. It's not saying that if someone was buried in the ground versus burned up, like that they did a good thing or a bad thing, but in death, there is life, is the way that I see it, and in life, there is death. We start off being pretty much dead at a point, and so we have to become alive again by burning off all the things that we no longer need anymore. So instead of living our lives by a set of rules, we instead burn the whole rule book itself, and we just be whoever we were supposed to be in the first place. Anyways, okay. I think I'm going to end the video here. Hopefully that was enough random information for one day. And leave comments below if you have questions. If you have longer questions, I do coaching, right? So just let me know if you want a one-on-one coaching session. We can just email about it instead. If there's anyone who's emailed me and I haven't answered, it's probably because I was literally felt insane for the last few days. I promise you I will answer. It just was not a good time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.